I should have kept my mouth shut. I used to think speaking up was always the right thing to do. My name is Daniel. I'm 29, and until a few months ago, I worked in HR at a mid-sized marketing agency in Chicago. Nothing crazy, just spreadsheets, policy updates, interviews, and a lot of passive-aggressive emails. I wasn't anyone important, but I liked to think I had a good moral compass, that I was the kind of guy people could trust. That idea didn't age well. It started with something simple. A conversation I overheard in the break room between one of our junior designers, Lena, and our creative director, Greg. Lena had been with the company for less than a year, bright, hardworking, a little shy. Greg, on the other hand, had been there forever. The kind of guy who schmoozed with executives, talked loud in meetings, and never remembered interns' names. I wasn't eavesdropping on purpose. I was getting my coffee. But the break room was small, and I froze when I heard Greg say, "You know, if you want to move up faster, Lena, sometimes it's not just about your portfolio. It's about who notices you." There's a long pause. "I'm just saying," he added. "You've got potential. Don't waste it." Lena laughed awkwardly. I could tell she didn't know how to respond. I didn't say anything. Just walked out, coffee half filled. It kept bothering me all day. Was it a joke? Was he flirting? Was I overreacting? That evening, I told my girlfriend, Kelly, about it. She's a middle school teacher and doesn't take shit from anyone. "That's not okay," she said immediately. He was pressuring her, but maybe I misheard? "You didn't? And even if you did, there's a pattern. Didn't you say people think he's handsy at happy hours?" I had. So the next morning, I filled out a quiet report to our anonymous HR inbox, not naming myself, but detailing what I'd heard. It wasn't even that dramatic. I figured it'd be handled discreetly. Maybe someone would talk to him. Maybe it was a misunderstanding. But then Lena was called into HR, and a week later, Greg was gone. Just like that. They called it a mutual separation, but everyone knew something was up. Rumors started flying: sexual misconduct, harassment, favoritism. And then, people started pointing fingers. And eventually, someone pointed at me. One of the interns, Sarah, asked casually, "Hey, did you report Greg?" I laughed. Why would I? But she tilted her head. "It's just," Lena said, "someone overheard it. And you were there, right?" I froze. I didn't answer. That was my mistake. By the end of the week, it wasn't a rumor anymore. People knew it was me, and they weren't happy. It was subtle at first how people changed around me. A nod that used to come with a "hey, man," became a quick glance and nothing more. People who used to eat lunch with me suddenly started eating elsewhere. Slack messages dried up. My inbox was mostly quiet unless it was work-related. At first, I thought I was imagining it. Paranoia. Guilt, maybe. But then I overheard two of the junior marketers whispering outside the printer room. "He's the one who got Greg fired, right?" "Yeah. Total snake move. Like, couldn't he have just talked to Greg first? Or Lena?" Honestly, she probably wasn't even uncomfortable. She didn't look like she was. I stood just behind the corner, holding a file folder, my hands starting to shake. That day, I walked past Lena's desk and she looked up at me. Not with gratitude, not with acknowledgement, just neutral, like I didn't exist. That's when I realized something. She hadn't asked me to say anything. She hadn't made a complaint. I had decided on her behalf that Greg had crossed a line. And now, the fallout was hitting both of us. By the end of the second week, my boss, Janet, called me into her office. "Daniel," she said, not unkindly, "I want to check in. I've noticed you've been quieter." I nodded. "Yeah, things have felt weird," she sighed. "Look, Greg's departure was messy. I can't get into the details, obviously, but some people are upset. He had friends here, and a lot of people feel blindsided." I thought I was doing the right thing, I said. She nodded again, almost as if she was suppressing her opinion. "Sometimes, the right thing isn't always the easiest thing." I left her office feeling worse than I had going in. That night, I told Kelly everything that people knew, that the vibe had shifted, that Lena hadn't even acknowledged me. "You still did the right thing," she said, sitting across from me on our tiny couch. "But did I?" I looked down at my hands. Maybe I should have just stayed out of it. She didn't answer right away. "No," she said finally. "The right thing doesn't always come with applause, especially if it makes people uncomfortable." I wanted to believe that. I did. But when I logged onto LinkedIn that week and saw Greg had already joined another company with a glowing announcement and tons of congratulations, I felt like I had torpedoed my own life for nothing. And worse, people started going after Lena. Someone made an anonymous comment during an all-hands meeting QAA. What's being done to prevent false allegations that ruin reputations? Another person accidentally left a sticky note on her desk that said, "Hope the promotion was worth it." And through it all, she said nothing. Didn't confront anyone. Didn't defend me. Didn't defend herself. Then one day, she didn't come in at all. Her desk was cleared by noon. And that's when things got even worse. Lena's sudden disappearance from the office sent a ripple through our floor. Nobody said it out loud, but everyone was thinking it. She left because of me. People talked even less now, or rather, they talked around me. I'd walk into the break room and it would fall silent. If I sat at a communal table, it would clear out within minutes. Meetings became curt and awkward. I was still doing my job, still hitting deadlines, but it felt like I was working under a microscope, every move being dissected and judged. Janet called me in again that Friday. Lena put in her resignation, she said. Effective immediately. I tried to keep my voice steady. Did she say why? Janet gave me a look that was neither kind nor cruel, just tired. Like someone who had seen too many of these things unfold. She didn't give a reason, just said she needed a break. There was a pause. I wanted to ask more, but I knew I wouldn't like the answers. Are people blaming me? I asked quietly. She didn't answer. That told me everything. That weekend, I met up with Kelly at our usual Saturday breakfast spot. The waitress came by 3 times before I realized I hadn't opened the menu. They think it's my fault she left, I said. Kelly reached for my hand, but I pulled it back instinctively. It wasn't her. It was everything. Do you think it's your fault? She asked. I don't know. I thought Greg crossed a line. I really did. But maybe I overreacted. Maybe it wasn't my place to say anything. Kelly looked at me for a long time, then said something that stuck with me more than anything else in this mess. The truth is, you might have been right, and you still might have ruined lives. Both can be true. I looked at her, waiting for a follow-up. But she just sipped her coffee. And now what? I asked. I just keep going to work where everyone hates me. You either ride it out, she said, or you leave. Monday morning, I got an email with no subject line from a personal Gmail address. No name. Just one sentence. I hope you're happy now. I stared at it for a long time. Then another one came an hour later. You destroyed a man's life for what? Office gossip? I clicked on the sender. It was a string of random letters. No identifying info. I blocked it. But more came. Variations. Different emails. DMs on Instagram from burner accounts. Comments on my LinkedIn. I stopped posting anywhere. I even deactivated my Twitter. And then came the voicemail. You're not a hero. You're just another coward who wanted to feel important. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat on the edge of our bed, staring out the window. Kelly stirred behind me. You okay? She mumbled. No, I said. I'm not. I started seeing a therapist the next week. Her name was Rebecca. She had soft eyes and asked a lot of open-ended questions that made me cry more than I expected. I had told her everything about Greg, about Lena, about the messages, the whispers, the looks. She didn't give me answers. She gave me silence, space, and then eventually tools. It's possible you did the right thing, she said one day, or too publicly, or with too much assumption. That stung, but it also felt true. So what do I do now? You have to decide who you want to be on the other side of this, not who they say you are. One evening, a full month after Greg's departure, I got a message from Lena, just a short one. I didn't ask you to speak for me, but I didn't hate that you did. It wasn't closure, it wasn't forgiveness, but it was something. After Lena's message, something inside me eased for the first time in weeks. Not relief, not peace, but a loosening of the constant guilt that had wrapped itself around my ribs like a vice. Still, her words haunted me in a different way now. I didn't ask you to speak for me. I had made a choice on someone else's behalf. Even if I meant well, even if Greg had crossed a line, was I any better than the thing I tried to fight against? I told myself I was protecting her, that she couldn't speak for herself. But maybe she just didn't want to. And maybe that should have been enough. Back at work, Janet had scheduled a team reset meeting. Some HR buzzword excuse to talk about culture rebuilding and healthy communication. We all sat in the conference room, our chairs too close, our smiles too fake. They brought in a consultant who wore a bright blue dress and tried to make everyone do icebreakers. I sat silently, jaw locked. Then she said something that made the whole room go quiet. Remember, every team has ruptures. But the way a team repairs says more about its strength than the rupture itself. No one said anything. Greg's name was never mentioned. Lena's neither. But we all knew what she was talking about. After the meeting, I stood in the hallway as people filed out. Ben, who used to be one of my closer coworkers, gave me a look then stopped. "Hey," he said awkwardly. I turned to him. "Yeah? I guess things got weird. No one really knows what happened." "I know," I said. He scratched the back of his head. "I mean, Greg, I liked the guy. But he also, yeah. There were rumors before, but I just though is married. You know." I nodded. "People don't want to believe bad things about people they like," I said. "Yeah." He looked at the floor. "Anyway, sorry if I was cold. I didn't know how to deal with it. It wasn't a grand apology, but it was the first olive branch anyone had extended in weeks. I accepted it. Kelly and I had dinner at home that night. Just the two of us. No TV, no phones. Just wine, pasta, and candlelight. Like we used to do when things felt simpler." She set down her fork. "Why? Because I don't think I can rebuild anything here. Not really. It's like I'm the ghost of a scandal." Kelly didn't respond for a while. Then, "I'll support whatever you want to do, but I hope you're not running. Because the next place you go, they'll have problems too." I sighed. I'm not naive. But this place, it's poison for me now. I walk through the halls, and I can feel people's thoughts sticking to my back. She nodded slowly. "Then start fresh. But not because they broke you. Start because you're done with them." The next morning, I updated my resume and started sending out applications. By the end of the week, I had 2 interviews lined up, but the world wasn't done with me yet. I got a call from a blocked number during my lunch break. I never answer blocked numbers, but for some reason, I picked up. "Hello?" A pause. "You ruined my marriage." The voice was familiar. Greg went out. "My wife left," he said. "Took the kids. Said she didn't want to be with someone whose name was being whispered like that, even though nothing ever happened." Nothing. My hand clenched around the phone. "Greg," I said carefully. "You crossed a line. You might not want to admit it, but you did. Nothing I did deserve this." I almost laughed. "You made Lena uncomfortable for months. She dreaded meetings because of you, and she didn't feel like she could speak up. Do you understand how broken that is? You think you're some kind of hero? You're just a jealous office rat who couldn't handle someone else being liked more." I closed my eyes. "I hope you get help," I said quietly, and hung up. Then I blocked the number. My therapist said that anger has nowhere to go when someone refuses to admit they were wrong. That closure is something we might never get from others, and sometimes we have to give it to ourselves. I didn't feel heroic. I felt tired, but I also felt something I hadn't in a while. Clarity. That evening, I got another message from Lena. They called me about a reference. I gave it. I said you tried to do what was right, even when it went wrong. It wasn't praise. It wasn't even gratitude, but it was truth. And it was enough. 3 weeks later, I got the offer. It was a smaller tech company outside the city, leaner, younger, more scrappy. The kind of place where everyone wore sneakers and no one scheduled a meeting just to hear themselves talk. The pay was slightly less, but the vibe was better, lighter, clean slate. I accepted without blinking. My last day at my old job came faster than I expected. I brought in donuts as some kind of neutral farewell gesture. Most people just grabbed one and avoided eye contact. Kelly had offered to take me out for a celebratory dinner, but I told her I needed to do one thing first alone. I sent one final message to Lena. Starting somewhere new next week. I hope things settle for you here. And if they don't, you always have options. You're stronger than you think. She saw it. No reply. That was okay. Starting over felt strange. In my first team meeting at the new place, I introduced myself just as a project manager, no baggage. No whispers. No invisible red flags attached to my name. Just a guy with a task list and a calm voice. At lunch, one of the new devs sat beside me and asked, "What was your last place like?" I paused for a long second. Then I smiled. Taught me a lot. Not all of it fun, but useful. That was all I said. And it was all that needed to be said. A month passed. Then 2. The air felt clearer. My sleep was deeper. Kelly told me I smiled in my sleep again. I didn't even realize I had stopped. Still, I checked my old company's Glassdoor reviews now and then. Some of the newer ones made veiled references to leadership changes and a more mindful culture. Apparently, after Greg left, a few others came forward. Things shifted. Lena got promoted. Sometimes change begins with a crack. Sometimes it begins with someone getting angry enough to speak up. And sometimes it begins with someone making a mistake so loud everyone else can finally hear the whispers they've been ignoring. One Saturday, while reorganizing the closet, I found a box with old thank you cards from coworkers, birthday notes, crumpled sticky notes with inside jokes. In between two cards, there was a printout of an anonymous note someone had left on my desk years ago. I hadn't even remembered keeping it. Thanks for always speaking up when I'm too afraid to. You probably don't even realize you do it, but it means more than you know. No name, no handwriting to recognize, just a little piece of paper. But it's stuck. You don't fix every fallout. You don't make everyone believe you. Sometimes, people will only ever see the worst version of you. The one snapshot taken when the light was worst. And sometimes, you'll be the villain in someone else's story. But if you were honest, if you tried, if you still cared after the silence, then maybe, just maybe that was enough. You walk forward, not because the past forgave you. You walk forward because you chose not to stay buried in it. Update 6 months later, things are good. Lena and I don't talk, and we probably never will. That's okay. We had a moment that changed us both. That's more than most people get. Greg tried applying to the company I now work at. HR flagged his name. Rejected. I didn't even have to say anything. Funny how truth gets around eventually. I'm not the hero. I'm not the villain either. I'm the guy who did what he thought was right and paid for it in ways he didn't expect. And I'm still here. That has to count for something. If you like this video, please subscribe for more.